Welcome back to my channel, fellow gardeners. This week has been so hectic. I'm uprooting a lot of Anthuriums that are planted in the wrong place. But this particular one, which I've had here for ages, look how tall it is. The beauty about Anthuriums is that once you get them in the right situation, they continue to flower all the time. And as we see here, we have so many flowers. Anthuriums are tropical plants and they do grow in the tropical forest. Now the thing about Anthuriums is that usually in these tropical forests, they tend to lean against other plants and sometimes they don't require soil in order for it to grow. Now the thing is that a lot of people have Anthuriums as indoor plants and others as outdoor plants. But in warmer weather like we have in Kenya, all our Anthuriums are outdoor plants. So welcome back to my channel, fellow gardeners. We're going to learn how to propagate this plant so you too can have many Anthuriums and enjoy this abundance of flowers. My name is Alice and I'm the Red Soil Gardener. So here we are with our Anthuriums. Now the thing about these Anthuriums, I've actually been uprooting them from my garden because somehow I always felt that Anthuriums can actually be in full sun. Suddenly, as I do more research and I realize that they don't like full sun, and I'll show you why, is once you do put them in full sun, is that what happens is that you end up scorching the leaves. They can't take it. So they will turn yellow and they will drop off. And on that note, I will actually remove that leaf. But basically they like bright and indirect sun. So what I've decided to do is, as I was looking at my Anthuriums, is I'm going to repot them and then move them into a bright indirect sun in order to save the leaf. What sort of soil does it need? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the thing about Anthuriums, they do belong in a tropical forest. So having them in a tropical forest, the type of soil that you need to have is actually something full of bark or full of all that lovely organic stuff that you do find in the forest. Now what I've done for my soil, for my Anthuriums, is I've actually mixed it. I've got my mixture, which I usually have, which I buy from Michael, and we've talked about soil before, which is full of bark. It's almost like an orchid soil, but with a bit of potting soil, is that it does have all the nutrients in it, and especially with the chicken manure, as we discover. But the thing about the Anthurium, what I've actually added this time, is I've added coconut peat, because coconut peat is organic and it gives a very light fluffiness in the soil. And this is the sort of mixture you will get with coconut peat. So in the soil mixture is just an organic mix that I have recreated as to what the Anthurium as it lives in the tropical forest would like. So as I put on my other glove, we continue talking about the other sort of possibility that you could use is that you can actually get like an orchid mix, because it is that sort of mixture, and add a bit more bark inside. You may add some perlite for drainage, but basically what this plant wants is a well-drained soil that still retains a bit of moisture, but it doesn't affect the roots so that you don't get root rot. Now with watering is that we don't want too much water sitting around its root. We don't want it to get root rot. So what you can do is that if you are a person that tends to overwater, do pot it in a clay pot with the drainage holes, because the beauty about clay pots is that it does also, it does lose moisture due to the structure of the clay. Whereas in a situation that if you were a busy person and traveling a lot and you do have an anthurium, is that you can put it in a plastic pot, because in a way is that you can water it and it doesn't lose water through its pot. Now the thing is that, so how many times do you have to water? Now the thing about watering anthuriums, like with most of our plants, is do the finger test. Put your finger in there for about an inch, and if it's dry, then you can water. However, if the soil is still wet, that is an indication that you shouldn't water and wait for it to dry out. There's so many different varieties of anthuriums. I mean, you get miniature anthuriums, you get these giant ones that we have here, and all of them, sometimes they come in different colors. You have red anthuriums, you have pink anthuriums, you have white anthuriums, and even green or white with a tinge of green. There's so many different varieties. It's always best to go to your garden center, or as you're purchasing your anthuriums, do find out the requirement of that particular hybrid. Now, the thing about propagation with anthuriums is that there are 3 different methods. Now, the method I use is a separation of the baby from the mother, but I have seen that other people do take the stem and they do propagate for as long as you have a node and you do have rooting on that stem. You can actually propagate. Others have used the flowers, but I'm not used to that sort of technique. So all I'm doing is teaching you what I usually do when I want to propagate my anthuriums. So what I have here is I have 2 types of propagation that I have been doing. Now, what I did a few months ago is I just had an anthurium and I just cut the major stem. I just cut it, and I did it to 2 of them. Where's my other baby? So these 2, I just simply cut the stem of the anthurium. It's like taking your anthurium like this and literally cut the top and the bottom. That's what I did, and I just stuck it in soil. It is a slower method, but you do get shooting happening, but it is actually quite doable, because as you put it in the soil, you do get these sort of aerial roots that do develop. And what happens with the aerial root, they do start rooting. So all I simply did, as I explained, cut the stem, and then I just put it in soil, and then it started rooting, and then as I see, you get the babies. So here I have my beautiful organic, tropical forest mix. And so all I'll do with these ones is I'm just going to go in here and put them in. And what happens is, like with this one, was exactly the same as that, but this has been longer. But out of those shoots, I got these leaves. So it is actually workable. So I'm just going to sink this one in here. For me is I'm just going to leave it like this and let it develop by itself. And as it grows bigger and my leaves become larger, or I get more leaves, is I will move it into a bigger pot and then eventually introduce it into my area that has indirect sun, bright indirect sun. This is my other plant. Now this is actually, I had it as a baby and I did a propagation where it did have its baby on its stem and then I removed it, but it is quite an old plant. And again, as I mentioned, is that as it does grow, is that you get the rooting at the base, as in here. It's a bit dry because I pulled it out about a few days ago. But these aerial roots do develop, and if you do put it in the soil, the aerial roots will take off and start rooting. So this is the way it'll look. So you have the base, which is the actual rooting, and then these are the aerial roots that develop from the sides. And that also will help you with having a plant with the rooting structure on it. So with this mother Anthurium, where she gets her babies is at the edge of the stem. Now, if you want to propagate, all you do is you go to the edge of the stem, and I can see one baby here. So all I'm going to simply do is pluck it. Here we go. That's my one baby Anthurium. And then the thing is that when you do pluck your baby Anthurium, make sure it does have rooting. It just makes everything much easier and your chances for survival is better. I look here again and I see here there is babies. So I'm going to try to remove it. There we go again. Just put this one aside. Again, here we have the baby that has formed and it does have rooting. So basically I can actually propagate it. So out of one stem, one Anthurium, I have an extra two, and that's your propagation. So what I'm going to do now is, as this one doesn't take so much space because we've seen its rooting, it's more or less trying to set off, as I'm going to actually take these two and plant it in here. So these ones I will wait and see. As these grow, I'll uproot it and put it in a bigger pot. But to save space, I will just plant it here. So where is everything? Here we go. So I'm going to put this one on this side, and it has the rooting, remember. So I'm just going to dig it here. There we go. So our little Anthuriums they are co-sharing a space. They've moved in with their other cousins. And also with this one, I will put it, let me put it this side here. And I'm just going to use my fingers and stick it here, like that. I'm going to add a bit more soil. Just up to the crown. And so I'm going to actually leave these flatmates with their cousins, just like that. And as they develop, I will move them into independent homes, just like that. There we go. So they can actually wait. So that is one of my Anthuriums. So what I'm going to do with these ones is I will actually wait and pot it much later. But I've already got a flower here. I have another flower there. And they actually call these flowers flamingo flowers because they're pink and they say they resemble flamingos. But aren't they so beautiful? Now, basically with the Anthurium plant is, let's talk about pests. Now, really, most of my Anthuriums have never been actually attacked by pests. And I do look, and sometimes what I do get is slugs. But usually with the slug, I just flip it off. But if you do get an attack of aphids, spider mites, and mealybugs, all you need to do is actually just get your soapy water and just clean your leaves with a cotton wool. Or else, if it is quite an infestation, we have done an episode on the neem oil. You could use neem oil, but at this point is that because the leaves are actually quite easy to clean, I would use your normal dishwashing liquid, soapy water, and that will actually slide your mealybugs, spider mites and aphid off. For those who have plants like the Anthurium as an indoor plant, usually during overwinter is that try to water it less, because basically it does slow down over winter. And for those who do have them in pots outside, do bring them in, because basically they don't really like the cold, they don't like drafts either. But when you do station it in your house, make sure you're not putting it against a window, because again, as we know, is that it does get sunburned or scorched, and in the end it will turn yellow and fall off. So in the end is over winter, do keep them inside. It does like a bit of heat. Do put it in a window, southwest window, but don't put it really against the window, because again, it does like bright, indirect sun. So basically the flower actually, as the leaf shoots up, the flower actually starts close to the flower. It's somehow like that attached and slowly makes its way to wherever it's going. But if you were to cut your flower, is just snip it close to the crown once it's spent. And there you are. So thank you so much, fellow gardeners. I hope you've learned something. Enjoy your Anthuriums. And as I go and plant these, I think I will be very happy. And now that I know how to look after them, I'm actually really excited. I'm going to have Anthuriums everywhere. So don't forget to like and share and press the notification button. And don't forget to subscribe and invite your friends, your families. We're on Instagram, we are on YouTube, and I do answer my comments. So thank you so much and have a lovely day.